Here, okay, he's online. So then that's the 7th. So I'm gonna appoint Ted. I didn't realize that he was online. Glad that he's here. And I'm gonna now appoint Ted Booksinger as a member for tonight. Okay, approval of the draft meeting minutes, the Inland Wetlands Agency meeting from January 3rd, 2024. Do any commissioners have any questions, corrections, or comment? Motion to approve. Dabney, any second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Right, number 2 is the site walk meeting from January 21st, 2021.
That's really just a formal,
Yeah.
so really a meeting since
So
we
we'll
don't really need to.
keep that as a document that's in the cloud for it, but was not a formal meeting. Okay. Okay, right into it. Roman numeral 4, public hearing. Number 1, WP 23-159, JPO Builders LLC, 447 Stratfield Road, map 31, parcel 202. Riverbank stabilization within a regulated area. The decision may be made, hearing is completed, or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing hearing ends on March 13th, 2024. A 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicant. Further public hearing continuations to May 17th, 2024 are possible. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 65 days. Staff recommends approval with conditions, but since it's a public hearing, I'll ask the applicants or the representatives to come forward. Yeah, please. Just start.
Members of the commission, my name is Michael Baturlo. Connecticut, Huntington Company. Present property at one time contained a house. Series of concrete alleys, take care of the runoff. Did a drainage report reviewed by the engineering department. I'm fortunate enough to get the 10-year storm. Which one of the requirements? In this case, we did. Again, we have favorable report hearing. Also proposed is some stabilization of the Rooster River. Top of that, we're offering town. They can have their full inspect and the comments to the owner if and when in time stabilization was done. That we heating.
And the Bartholomew with Sound Engineering Associates. I was asked to design stabilization of the river on this riverbank because it had suffered some severe erosion over the last several years. There was a study done by Ty and Bond to get the problem. Came up with was an armoring with large stone over a base of smaller stone. Relatively straightforward design, but it maintains a stable slope. And stones are to be in the order of 3.5 to 4.5 feet in diameter. So they're quite large, so we'll need some large equipment on site to manage those. Essentially, the base will be prepped in advance with stone and the large stone placed in. They work their way up. That's essentially it. Is there any questions?
Take any consideration of the energy dissipation and velocity of the stormwater placement of the rapid.
It's as designed for velocity in excess of, I believe, 16.5 feet per second, which is quite fast. Stone is sized to be for that.
Yeah, but did you make any consideration in terms of velocity, energy dissipation in terms of ocean for other stream banks?
So the best thing that we can do is blend in the stone property line without approaching into the others. So, and this is where the worst of the erosion has happened. So based on my observations, the side of the property that does not have this problem.
In your opinion, if we armor this, will it move the problem downstream or upstream? Because
No,
they're not going to have any way for the energy to be dissipated after we move the water somewhere else.
we're not narrowing the channel. So the channel's been widened by this scour problem. So if anything, we're maintaining or bringing it back to what it was. So we don't.
It's not armored now. It's a dirt.
Yeah.
Can you explain what you mean by bringing it back to what it was?
Well-
Back to what it was.
We're starting at, no, we're not bringing,
Does
no, that's not really what I meant. I meant we're starting at the base that we know was an established base before, and we're coming up on a stable slope. So that slope doesn't necessarily match what that eroded bank looks like right now. Basically, it's going to be a more stable slope, what I meant. So we starting at a particular point at the base that we have to establish of where at the bottom of that slope is right now. And the way that the eroded slope is, it's quite vertical. So we're going to be actually cutting it back a little bit at the top.
Like a beach, like I would experience at the beach, it's gonna be a slope that's.
If you can imagine, it's gonna resemble the jetty at Penfield Point. It's gonna be large stone like that.
We consider being a combination of the revetment and some green technologies, wattles, quarry logs, things.
That material is not gonna survive this kind of velocity. In about 16.5 feet per second, it will wash away.
Do you consider integrating some plants into the riprap?
I mean, we can put some plants at the top. I mean, we could certainly, stones that size are going to have some areas where you can put material in. So we could add that material. I can't guarantee that they're going to stay. Not really any where for a root mass to.
It's not atypical. I mean, that's it.
This is not an atypical. This is not a typical scour scenario. This is a severe scour condition. This requires some significant structure. When I say 3.5 to 5 foot diameters stones, that's bigger than this table. These are large stones.
By doing what you're doing, let's stabilize not only that house, but maybe the surrounding areas too. Will that keep the water?
So this particular spot is susceptible because of its location on the bend river. So that we're going to strengthen that, and the other sides, it should not affect either side of it because it hasn't affected it. We don't see any reason why.
My question is though, if you armor this area and then you're gonna have that water at a higher velocity coming around that bend, wouldn't you have more scour on the downstream?
No higher velocity, it's just a velocity that's been calculated.
The velocity, I mean, it's gonna around that.
Well, the idea, so this is why it's a smooth transition. We can't have any abrupt changes in the bank.
Can you explain that? So upstream from this point,
Yeah.
upstream velocity of the river is gonna come down, whatever you're gonna do, when it comes out. Explain from upstream through this area and what happens after.
So. Really have a great graphic for that, but.
That's okay, you can walk us through it, verbally.
One moment. So there happens to be a fairly sharp bend.
Yeah.
Just immediately upstream of this site. Okay, so you can imagine the water flow comes and basically hits that riverbank, essentially head on. And then it gets deflected and heads downstream. So simply armoring that slope. So the water's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna hit that head on. Energy is gonna be dissipated in that stabilization. Then it's going to go downstream. There should be no impact to the property downstream.
I think that was the concern. So this, the rocks, all of the boulders, everything that's there, that'll be absorbing the energy.
Correct.
Coming in.
Correct.
And then it should stabilize or at least.
It will be,
Softer.
it should be, it will be, well, velocity may not change, but it will be direction. The direction of the flow
Yeah.
will have been changed and it could not be a problem, property downstream.
Where is the beginning of this armoring going to be? At the edge of where we would stand? Or are you talking about farther extending that out into the waterway itself? I mean, it's coming down with velocity that's pretty strong. This great wall. I think that's gonna be a turbine.
So we have a small.
That I got that.
So the existing lawn, if I may, and I know this is hard to see, but the existing lawn is somewhere over here. And it runs out to here and then it drops off
Sharp.
very sharply. So we're actually coming back on a shallower slope. Okay, and we're bringing the stone back. We're losing lawn over here.
That's my question. You're not going out
No, we're sacrificing,
very much.
sacrificing
It is today.
5 to 8 feet of lawn to do this.
So what I think of, for example, is I think of the jetties that are down at the beach. They're there to stabilize, but in reality, the waves hit that road to far side. Everybody knows that they don't really stabilize. They're always falling.
That's not, well, it's a different process. I have to say, it's a different process. Jetties and groins, this is,
It was just
yeah.
like this.
but that gets into sediment transport and
Okay.
what happens, how littoral sediment transport travels along the beach. That's a totally different process than what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a high velocity water coming downstream and turning a corner. It's not the same.
Can you tell me what you mean by blending?
So the best we can do is take the slope that the neighbors have and feather that, start from the property line and feather that into our slope. So as we get toward the edge of our design, we have to meet the existing slope. You can't have an abrupt change in the riverbank. That'll create a problem.
That's what's downstream. It's the same. I keep
Exactly.
calling it a cliff. I don't know. I'm hung up on it. It's
Exactly.
so scoured out that when you stand on the edge, you're literally standing.
Exactly, but if you notice here, this takes a bend right here because I'm meeting the old riverbank. And over here, we're doing the same thing. So we have a typical design here, and the or so feet, we have to take that stone and blend it into what that existing slope is.
And the neighbors on either side, the river straightens out.
Yes, yes. It's a very isolated condition. It's a very isolated condition.
I have a question. You mentioned that velocity would not be slowed down after water. Doesn't take, wouldn't it help slow the water down, hitting these 3.5?
Well, that takes a quite complex calculation to do if the area in different, change the velocity. Same, it won't change it. You're dissipating energy, but you're not necessarily changing velocity.
It is taking energy away, but it doesn't slow it down because you're not reducing narrow.
Imagine the directional forces.
Dissipating the energy as opposed to what is happening now.
Well,
And in a way, I'm almost curious if it's an incline, rain is heavy, wouldn't this tend to water mount it? And I almost feel like it would almost mount it and go up into the neighbor's yard.
Well, we're protecting this riverbank from eroding,
Yeah, I
Right.
see that, yeah.
right? So what are our options? Our options is to build a vertical wall.
Yep.
And our options are to, come up with some other kind of structure to manage this. This is practical and effective way of doing it. So you have large rocks that can handle the kind of energy that this volume of water is imparting on. Okay, so it doesn't move. That's what it's about. It's about right now the riverbank is made up of soil, very small particles that move when they get hit with water. These don't move. So that's all it's all we're trying to do.
Is that how you define absorbing the energy?
In this for instance, I would say, yeah, maybe that's a poor choice of words, but it's let's maybe say resist the energy.
Okay, transferring, okay.
You know, I understand, I mean, they absolutely have to do something about this. I mean, they're gonna lose everything. I mean, they have to stabilize it. I'm just concerned about at the end that this property is gonna be protected, but the adjoining property downstream is gonna have a problem.
Well, I mean,
The one upstream.
the river straightens,
The one upstream.
Yeah,
well, the river straightens out in both directions.
right, but I mean, the retaining walls that they put on the other side, like they solved their problem and then they created a bigger problem across the way. So now we're gonna do this and then are we gonna create problems? You know, I just worry that, you know, so is there no hydrology report, like engineering report to show?
This design was based on a hydrologic report done by Bond.
Okay,
Right.
so I did go to hearings when they were doing all of those, yes.
So we took that information and we designed this accordingly. Now,
But that was back in 2020, correct? Yeah.
there is a very abrupt change in the direction of the river right there. Happens to occur essentially on this property. If other people are having a similar problem downstream or upstream, they would be having it. If they're having it now, they should be doing something about it. Okay. My client is doing something about it right now. And I can't speak for the neighbors on either side. They have to take care of their own property.
Very good.
Any further from your side? Any other people to be talking? No. Okay, any, all right, well then, thank you. Anybody here or online? Can you take that off the screen?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody here in person or online that'd like to speak in support of this application? Online, or whatever. If you're here. Anybody here in person or online that'd like to come up and speak in opposition?
I'm here, and it's not necessarily opposition.
Come on up. Come on up. You guys, you're done. So you need to come up, name, address, and let us know what your thoughts are. And, you know, the more information we have, the more informed decisions we can make. Inland wetland,
I recognized you.
I know, I saw you sitting.
have a seat, Bernie. Okay, hi. Name and address, please.
John Natoli. I'm at 427 Stratfield Road.
Excellent.
I am the property immediately downstream
Okay,
of 447. There's two lots, one that's on the street and one that's on the river. Been in the house since 2007. And I want to remind everyone that the primary reason we're all here is illegal structure that was built out into the river on the Woodside Circle side, still to this day is unresolved. That is diverting the water, which is moved the riverbank. In the years since I've been in the property, 447 has lost, I would estimate, about 50 feet of their backyard to the river due to this erosion problem. Property immediately upstream on the opposite side of me has been affected as well. And in the back of their property, what used to be rolling riverbank is now in the corner a cliff, about 10-foot drop off, steep drop that I believe is dangerous. The properties downriver, my property specifically, have experienced change, not to the level, thank goodness, as 447, but there was about 8 or 10 mature, large trees that have been washed away over the years. And I don't know if you saw it in the record, I submitted a video of the rain in 2018, where I have a 5-foot picket fence in my backyard. The river was over the fence. My concern is I generally approve of this. I think it's the right thing to do to stabilize certainly their property. My concern is that energy is being absorbed along 447. What happens at the end of that wall? Is it going to create an eddy and make a big hole, sinkhole in
it seemed to
my
be
backyard?
the questions we were having.
Yes,
So
and you guys were perfectly on the right track. And if it pushes too far, is it going to then start to, which is not my problem, is it going to start to undercut
Right.
Woodside Circle? Because Woodside Circle there bordered the riverbank. There's no other
Is
house.
that really mostly your concern, that particular issue?
The other issue is due to the high elevation of the house. It raised the yard significantly, about 15 feet spots. That runoff is going to generate even more water going towards the very wall that they're proposing building from the opposite side. And it's already causing runoff down into my property, which is eventually going to riverbank as well.
I would say, having been there a year or so, whatever, there is a significant difference in the elevation of the.
Yes.
I'm just making that.
And I think that will also.
You wouldn't know that unless you.
The
It's
next
pretty
one.
obvious.
But you can actually go there right today and see where the original property was and where the mound they built to kind of level out the house in the back of the property, back of the house side of the property.
So you're looking at it every day outside your back. What you've done?
I think the wall is well, first of all, it's the Woodside Circle obstruction upstream. I remember the address 236. I like the idea of the wall. I just want to make sure that an engineer, Mr. Department, could attest that once that water leaves the end of the wall, it's gonna stay within the riverbank. Not gonna have energy that's been diverted, that's gonna cause it to stay towards the left, because there's no longer diameter, 4-foot diameter stones. Now it's gonna find a weak spot and then come right into it.
Much of your property is on that back line? 50 feet, every 5 feet?
Like 5 to 100 feet probably. Along the riverbank? Yeah, it's the entire width of I go from the end of 447 all the way down. It's actually, I think it was in the picture. We should have our.
And it's straight where you are, you're after the turn, right?
After the turn, but it turns again very slightly at the corner. You can actually see it on your drawing. It turns again very slightly at the end of 447 at the corner of my property. It's not the same bend that's at the north side of the property, upriver side of the property. But if you look at the drawing, there's a slight bend on my side.
I think we have the flavor of where you're at. So now I will send in the. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So, sir, you heard what the neighbor said. How you understand what he's trying to say? And I think we were trying to say the same thing. So the water's hitting the rocks. What happens after? For the boulders? Water hits the boulders.
And it changes direction.
Okay. Does it stay within the riverbank?
It's
Designed.
It's designed to stay within the riverbank. Now, what I could say, the river doesn't necessarily recognize property. There's going to be need to create a proper landing at the property. And with the neighbor's permission, we can work together and to their satisfaction, okay? Now, this is the first time John hasn't.
Well, that's why this is a public hearing. This is the first time the public gets to talk.
All right, so we're happy to do that, okay? Now, parties have to agree. My client has to agree to this. They have to agree to this. Maybe 3 parties involved if necessary, but I assure you, we want to make sure that this is done the last time this is addressed. We don't want to have a problem where we have to stop abruptly and put someone else's, end up with someone else's property in susceptible.
Well, I think what I hear you saying is that the way that this is going to be constructed, I don't foresee any adverse effects. Neighbors don't.
I don't. No, the idea is to make a smooth transition. Is that smooth transition going to be, exactly on the property line? Well, we'd like to get it as close to on the property line as possible, or stay within our property line, because it may not be. We may not have to go right to the edge of the property to do that. We want to have neighbors happy with it.
So I think the concern is just the neighbors downstream. Is that right? Or just concerned that there's going to be an adverse effect.
Kind of coming past the property line is going to make the flow better and safer. I'm okay.
That's what I was, you say blending. I still can't wrap my head around the blending, so I got the impression that you might be extending well into their property.
Not necessarily.
To do that without.
Yeah, they would have to get, well, there's a separate permit. This is a whole different matter.
Paper on. So that
I got that.
Ideally, I'd like to have this blended in before it reaches the property. That would be the ideal situation.
Let me ask you a question. What if the parties came together, decided, sat down all together, and this gentleman says, I need 10 feet if I can come to my property by 10 feet, 15 feet, whatever it is.
We just make it part of the application, we get everybody to sign off on it.
I'd have to talk to my client, the parties have to have that
All parties
discussion, there's nothing wrong with it.
You know what, this works. No adverse action that we see. And then just ending on my property line, give me 10 feet of straightaway, divert the water, so we have runoff rather than just hitting a turn. And then we,
Like I said, the parties have to agree.
Just your,
I'm sorry?
is your client here?
She is.
Hold on for a minute. Is that the owner here? Would you?
I'm recognizing.
I'm sorry. Would that be something you would be willing to talk to the neighbor about?
Yes.
Okay. Is the upland owner here?
Upstream?
Upstream.
Upstream.
I'm half upstream.
that
Okay.
doesn't count.
Well, there are two pieces of property. I'm sorry, downstream. Thank you.
That's okay.
I'm just directional.
Well, right now, it seems like it's a two sides. So,
Yeah.
and we have time, but let me just double check our time. We have until May. I'm inclined to just continue this. Maybe you all can talk.
Yeah.
See if you guys can come up with a. You're behind.
That's fine, I hear you.
And I don't think anybody wants to deny this per se. Let's not make one little issue become bigger. So if you guys can figure it out, maybe you have the resources now to start it. Professionals involved, maybe they can help all of you out. I think we would be willing to accommodate a group application, if you will. Said something along those lines. Is that something we can do, or how would that work?
That's a good question.
Technically, I think the adjoining property owners would have to file applications
File their own applications.
if, you know, the commission would entertain fee waivers on their behalf as part of.
Yeah.
I was just gonna.
Yeah,
So-
I think we're all on board on our end with that, but you guys would have to talk and see how you make this work. We're willing to work with you. I know it's a big issue. But I think you've maybe solved 60% of the issue. If you have others with neighbors, sorry. But I think that would be, you're good, okay. Do we need their permission to do an extension, or are we good on our own?
Yeah, this
We
time.
still have
Still
one more.
Still have one more?
You-
Right, I'll entertain a motion to continue this.
Excellent.
We have some more.
Yeah, Jay still has.
Getting into this energy dissipation mode, are you able to place some of those rocks so they're up and down? Or in other words,
If you imagine,
smooth revetment, try to get something in there to act, to actually slow the water down and take some of the energy out of it.
slowing it down, I mean,
You know what I mean? You,
Yeah,
it's just like an energy, you increase the Reynolds number, you just get some more and slow the water down, try to take some more of the energy out of it.
so you're
Wouldn't
saying,
take that much, even a foot or some variation between the height of the rocks, I think would help a lot. I know it's a double-edged
Well,
sword.
let-
Undermine it, but it also would help take some of the energy.
let me say this. The kind of rocks used are as important as the rest of the design. These rocks need to be, they can't be round, what we call potato shaped rocks. They have to be angular rocks that lock into each other. Okay, that's a key part of this design.
Yeah.
And they have to be large. And there's going to be large voids between them because of those shapes. And we're not, generally speaking, if you have that on a shoreline, down on the beach, they tend to fill up with smaller stones. You're not gonna probably have that here because those stones would just get wiped away, all right? So I think you have places for the water to go into the interstitial spaces between the rocks.
Like putting a few rocks sticking up, because I think that would,
We could look at that. I don't know.
I know-
I have to go back and look at the design, but if we're talking about, it might come at the expense of
it's
changing.
all about energy. It's all about, so what you're trying to do, and you do this with an energy dissipator, a rip wrap or anything, put some of the rocks up, it slows the water down, stops some of the energy, then it helps with the downstream.
But this is, I mean, this
I
is.
know it's complicated.
Gaps in the rocks that you're talking about now is satisfying.
Yeah.
That's a big
That's
deal.
why I said-
That's a, yeah, so.
What needs to be done is a better job of explaining
I think
absorbing energy. I don't see rocks as absorbing energy other than sending it somewhere else.
No, but
That's my
the water gets trapped between those large rocks and
That's
that's
part of your design, and there's going to be gaps intentionally.
correct. All right. So I think to Jay's point, I mean, we're happy to, look at maybe some variations in the slope, so to speak, along the length.
The more uniform it is, the higher the coefficient is gonna be.
We can,
The more regular it is, more.
right, so we can look at that and see what we can come up with.
Okay. Yeah, I need a motion, that's what I asked. That means first, seconded by, Oh, sure, are you? Before we do the motion, table the motion, sir, if you wouldn't mind, this gentleman would like to.
I can sit here?
So I was, when you asked if anybody wanted to speak in favor, I was torn because, well, first of all, I'm Dick Mahusky. I live on Colonial Drive.
Thank you.
And I'm also the secretary of the Flood and Erosion Control Board. So in favor, and I mean, I personally, and on behalf of the Flood and Erosion Control Board, since erosion control is our middle name, we are absolutely in favor of farm ranges of riverbank. But my concern is what happens, that has been spoken to here. Tim says we're gonna blend on the end to get into the bank. That's all well and good, but what he's describing might not be what's in my mind's eye hearing. And the other thing is that one of the recommendations that staff has made to have a monitor for this site to make sure that the thing is constructed right and the turbidity is controlled and all of that. So without a more complete description of what this blending is, who's to say who's doing it right? So I think that it should be, and I'm unaware of what this tie and bond report is, but there should be some kind of hydraulic analysis done and especially consider what happens on the inlet end to this wall and the discharge end of this wall. Somebody mentioned eddies, and I can see just in my ignorance looking at the drawing, it's okay, so we have this big massive rock structure. What does it do? Just stop? And as the water rolls off the end of it, what kind of eddy does that create? As the water rolls off the end of it, what kind of further scouring is done on the downstream property at the riverbank where there's a big tree there has its root ball all undercut already. So is that gonna go into the stream while we're constructing this armoring of the shore? So I just think the idea of continuation is good. The neighbors involved is good, but I think there should be more definition of what the work is so that it could be.
Sure, yes, please.
Well, just so you're aware, I'm a former member of the Flood and Erosion Control Board.
Okay. Let's start it with that.
I should have started with. And my office is here at Fairfield, with offices in Fairfield and Mystic. So this is riverine situations we get involved in, but we're mostly coastal designs, okay? So, but I'm happy to work with Dick to satisfy his concerns.
Okay, all right. And those concerns need to be on paper somewhere.
Absolutely.
And that's good. That's my main.
That's what he was talking
We
about.
have time, I'll sit down with him, we'll figure it out together, I'll make sure that we're.
I think we're all happy with that, because you have neighbors that are gonna get involved, and now you'll be able to understand what we're looking for, what's coming in and what's going out. You know, good stuff comes in, good stuff goes out.
Just one final comment. I think I would suggest an effort be made to reach out to the upstream neighbor and get them involved. I don't.
Well, yeah, that'll be between you guys, really. It's whoever.
Well, those folks are all downstream.
No, yeah. Okay,
Okay.
very
you very
good.
much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we have the motion that was tabled, we'll put it back on. It was motioned by Dabney, seconded by Peter. All in favor to continue the public hearing? Aye, and Ted is a yes in there as well. Okay, very good. Yeah. All right, so now we move. Move on.
Yeah,
I know, Dick, yes.
The tag and bond march, it was part of a public hearing here, like.
Number 2, the public hearings, WP 23 Town of Fairfield, Wickman Lane, just on the record. So WP 23 Town of Fairfield, Wickman Lane over Sasko Brook, replacement of bridge number 049871, Old Road number 2, Wickman Lane over Sasko Brook. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends March 13th, 2024. 65-day extension may be provided by the applicant, so further public hearing continuations to May 17, 2024 are possible. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 65 days. Staff recommends approval with conditions, and we also have an application request for fee waiver. That's the town, so.
Actually,
It's over here, okay.
yeah,
All right.
this is part of a state project,
Okay.
CHA, correct? Is the consulting engineer working with the towns of Fairfield. Support. You're actually.
Good, very good. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Scott Young. I'm a licensed professional here in Connecticut. Work for CHA Consulting. As introduced, we are working with the state of Connecticut through the federal local bridge program, which is also partnering with both the town of Westport and Fairfield for this project. So we're here tonight to run through the proposed replacement of that bridge that's at the town line, Sasko Brook. And so assume this is good enough. Everyone can see all right.
There's one behind them.
So just to get everyone oriented, Wakeman Lane here on the eastern side of the site transitions to Old Road number 2 into Westport. And here's the brook that's flowing essentially north to south. So just to get everyone somewhat oriented here. So what I'll just do is do the plans. So these are the plans that you all have in front of you, or if you've seen at some point. What we've done is just put some colors on it to help the presentation, but I just want to reassure you that we're not adding anything to the public hearing here. These are just the same plans that you guys have. So get everyone oriented a little bit. Again, here's a blow-up site. Wakeman Lane, Old Road number 2, Bristol Lane is heading down to this southeast a little bit here. Essentially flowing from the top of the page to the bottom of the page, and the town line is pretty much through the middle of the river here. This is too small. Let me know, and I can try to zoom in a little bit. That helps. Slowly, but there it goes. So essentially what we have here, the green lines are the wetlands that are on the site. Blue lines are what's called the water course, which is defined by the ordinary high water marks. And the red lines that we've shown here are where a silt fence is proposed. The red boxes are where we put sedimentation control around catch basins that are proposed or existing. So the existing bridge here, you can see is in a kind of a brown color, if you like. So the existing bridge was built in 1965. It's about 23 feet wide across the river. It's a lot narrower than that. If you drive across it, it's probably more like a neighborhood lanes. I guess you have to be skinny if you're going 2 lanes at once. So we're looking to replace that. The new bridge would be 38 feet across the river. And that conforms to a couple of different goals that we're after here. With the Army Corps general permits, they ask for a 1.2 bank full width up here and out here. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 31 feet. So we're putting 1.2 times that is 38 feet. So that allows space for a riparian shelf to be constructed under the bridge. And we're also trying to achieve flood issues here. This isn't a FEMA zone AE. And so we're trying to make sure that we don't cause any issues with the replacement of the bridge here, not to raise any water surface elevations either upstream or downstream. And just, it's not super clear on here, but there is a water main right through here, just downstream of the bridge. It's actually visible in the stream. There will be a new water main that will be mounted on the face of the bridge, the downstream face of the bridge. We did get asked by the Army Corps to go ahead and pull that pipe out of there. So that's part of the work. It's just pulling that pipe out. It's actually sitting on the stream bed. They considered that a temporary type of impact, but that will be something else that will happen. They'll just pop that out.
Duration of construction.
Right. Duration of structure.
We're trying to do it in one.
I think we're aiming for 1 season. We're doing a precast type of structure. It's a 3-sided arch type of structure, more in the shape of a box, really. It's the full 38 feet. We'll have to get in there. We'll construct the proper foundation that will protect the bridge against scour. There'll be piles and a pile cap and then some concrete, and then we'll come in and set this structure down. So because the road will be closed during construction, so we're trying to do this in a fairly quick way. And also from an economic standpoint, though, the precast structures are usually a pretty economical way to go.
So Scott, all of the existing concrete.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. So I'll just kind of run through the plans a little bit more here. So just from a wetlands and water course impact, again, I'll try to zoom here a bit. So in the green lines are the wetlands, the blue lines are the water course. So we have some permanent water course impacts in dark blue, some temporary water course impacts in light blue. So just from doing the construction and from getting in here and doing water handling and, keeping the river running while we're doing this work, that's what the temporary impacts are. Show you where that's, what's happening there a little bit later. But then, it's just removing of the existing structure, just getting those footings out of there, things like that. Those are considered permanent type of impacts, even though it'll be restored when we're all done. So, let's see. That's some total impacts. Total impacts in Fairfield, permanent impacts are about 110 square feet. For wetlands and for water course, about 380 square feet. So a total of just under 500 square feet of impacts in either wetlands or water course. The upland review area, which is another area that you wanted to have it calculated, is about 6,300 square feet, or a little over a tenth of an acre. So as part of our process, we do go through the flood management through the state of Connecticut. Flood management, and they have a memorandum of understanding with the DEEP, the flood management certification process on federal local bridges. We do look at all the town regulations, both in this case in both towns. We look at those regulations to make sure we're conforming to those regulations, as well as the state and FEMA regulations through that process. So this is just a slide that depicts the area that will be within the floodplain that will be impacted. whether it's cuts or fills or whatever, it's just an impact. And then the blue again is the temporary impact from water handling, cofferdams or those type of things. All told, from an impact standpoint, we're gonna be about 10 yards less, because if you picture it, we're taking the bridge that was 3 feet, we're putting it out 38, we're creating quite a bit of space there. We are actually raising the road some to make all this work, but the balance of cut and fill have been pretty much balanced, and we have done a hydraulic analysis with HEC-RAS, which is a software that's approved by Army Corps, approved by FEMA, by just about everyone, written by Army Corps. So it's, you know, it's a software. We analyze the whole water surface up and downstream. We start at a known elevation from FEMA, go up to a known elevation from FEMA, and we do that analysis and make sure we're all good. So, you know, even though there's a little change in the floodplain, we've modeled all that to ensure that there's no issues as far as water surface elevation. So, like I mentioned, we'll be closing the road down. This is just a slide that depicts to a certain extent that the road will be closed. There'll be some barriers, Jersey barrier probably type of things that you're typical of seeing. Not Jersey barriers, maybe there'll be something similar to that, but you know, there'll be barriers on both sides. We'll come in with a crane at some point. The crane will probably sit on this side. They'll swing the work into place, and so this is just to give a quick depiction of what's going on out there as far as work. We'll be pumping, you know, when there's footing work or foundation work going on, we have to discharge any water from the holes. They'll come up, they'll be discharged into dewatering basins outside of wetlands. We're ensuring that that water stays clear. So from a water handling standpoint, zoom in, this would be phase 1. So this is essentially the Westport side, or the west side of the project, where we anticipate starting there, just from the alignment of the brook and so on. So we would end up putting in a cofferdam here, and a cofferdam, essentially sandbags type of thing. So we would go ahead and do that, and then we would actually put in, I should call it water handling cofferdam. Then we'll actually put a cofferdam, which is more difficult, your steel sheeting or something, so you can do work below the grade from a safety and from a water standpoint. One thing to note is in between the 2 red lines here, that we'll be actually using a little bit different system here with a cofferdam. It'll be a pile and soldier pile and timber lagging, because we can't, once we put this structure on top. So by going with this type of structure, this is a top view looking down on it. So they'll put piles in the ground probably every 6 to 8 feet. And then they'll put timber in between it to create that buffer or that seal. When all is done, they'll remove all the timber and they'll cut those piles down 2 feet below the stream level, because they can't pull them out. They can pull out the steel everywhere else.
If they pull them out.
Because we just put a cap over it. The precast structure will be sitting on top of it, so we can't get through the roof of that to get down to it. So that's only happening where the bridge itself is. On the outside of the bridge, we'll get that out. Where we just put this 3-sided cap on top, you know, we close the lid over the river. We can't then pull these piles out because we can't get to them.
Is that, do you all anticipate using pressure treated timber?
I doubt it, because it's not a timber that you're looking to last long term like that. It'll probably be oak or something, because it'll probably be something you want structurally to be sound. And that's, you know, if that's something that concerns you, certainly put that as a condition. You know, that's something that we want to make sure that it's just
Control, not treated.
yeah, that's fine. No, I understand that concern, but this isn't a long term thing. I doubt they would do that. Treated is not the greatest lumber. It's honestly not very structurally sound a lot of times.
Excuse me, Scott, if I may, Bill Hurley, Airfield Engineering Manager. You said 2 foot below stream level. Do you mean the bottom of the stream, or do you mean water level? Say 2 foot.
Good question. It'll be the bottom of the stream. So where the stream will
It's gonna be sticking up. I just.
Nothing will be sticking up, right? And that's the intent, is to get it down below so that as the stream moves a little bit here or there, you won't see these things. That's right. That's pretty much a standard, is to go 2 feet below the stream level and stream bottom level, I should say. So while all this work is happening on the Westport side, we'll maintain a 14-foot wide channel through here for the river to flow freely. Fisheries folks have seen this, they're all happy with that, as long as we're not cutting the river off, which we're not, we're gonna maintain that. And then phase 2, we'll just basically move the sandbags over to the other side, put the similar type of system in, and construct that footing on that side. And then, again, construct the bridge. We'll remove the work and the sheeting that's in place. This is an elevation view or a side view of the structure. So this kind of answers your question of how deep it will be. It'll actually be 2 feet below the bottom of the stream level. So this is the inlet or the upstream side. So we're looking south here. Water's flowing toward the bridge from this point of view. There will be some riprap or natural stream bed material. I'm sorry, not riprap. Put in here for the riparian shelf. It'll be pretty much on. Make sure I'm talking. It'll be on the Fairfield side, the left-hand side as it's flowing downstream. So that will be constructed there. You'll see it also on. This is the downstream side looking upstream, so you'll see that that's also there as well. From a planting plan, we'll come back in here and anything that's being established below the wetland level, reestablished due to temporary impacts, will be planted with the wetland seed mix. Those will be replaced. Conservation mix on other slopes that are not lawns, and then we also have a turf establishment, which is the green. The conservation mix would be the purple. That'd be kind of your natural slopes that aren't being mowed on a regular basis, that type of stuff. There'll be some plantings and things like that. There is a planting list on the plan, so I'm sure you've all seen that, looked at that. I think that hopefully paints a picture of what we're doing out there. We do have the designer from Fuss & O'Neill is also on the call here. So, if we have some specific questions about the structure of the bridge, as CHA have done the hydraulics and the permitting along with Fuss & O'Neill doing the structural design.
Thank you very much. If there's any questions or comments?
Scott, what is the bridge itself going to be made out of? Right now, it's steel grid. There's a walking area on the north side. Is it? The bridge look like?
The new bridge will be a concrete structure, a precast concrete. From the road width standpoint, so we'll have 2 12-foot lanes on there. So this is as if you were looking along the road. So it's a slice. You can see the flow of the river from upstream to downstream. That's what this is showing. Here's your water main on the downstream face. So it'll be 2 12-foot lanes is what we're looking at this point.
If you don't mind, I'm going to comment. My understanding is they're really going to be 10-foot travel lanes and 2-foot shoulder.
Yeah.
Just the pavement width will be 24, but
That's right.
we'll give it pavement markings that only show it like to be 20-foot wide. It's not conservation
Shoulder, right.
related, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't criticizing of widening it too much, making it a speedway. So that was both the towns and the state agreed to that. So they.
Right. There's certain program limitations that, because it's federal funding, they want these to meet certain standards. So, we do work with the town to make sure the width of the road and those type of things too. Thanks for that clarification.
I have a question or two, but I want the commission to go first. Okay.
My other question was, and what is the lifespan of this bridge?
I'll be long gone by that time. It's 75 years is typically.
That's what I just want to know. I'm like, it was the sixties. I'm like, how long, how much time are we gonna get out of this bridge?
Yeah, typically they say 75 is what we're looking at. Precast structures last probably a lot longer than that, just because, I'm sorry?
No, no,
Yeah.
it won't be our.
It won't be our problem, exactly. But, yeah.
I just would, just for the sake of saying it out loud, I really appreciate the structure of this alternatives considered. This is just great. I mean, seriously, and.
Thank you.
about the
Yeah.
I
advantages.
appreciate that. That's.
If only all of our applicants.
It's great. I'm very thorough. I thought it was great.
We have a problem. Sometimes we get applications and they just say that, no, we don't have to. Well, I don't know. I just want to come out.
Great. Well, we appreciate that. Claire, who's on the line, who I work with, helping us here. Here we go. So shout out to Claire and all the.
One color.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Ted, good? Okay.
Thanks. Because, if you don't mind, maybe 2 minutes of, because when we had the public informational meeting, which is what we usually do before they go to conservation, it was during COVID, that's how long it was designed, unfortunately it was taken.
This is a public hearing, so I wanted all.
Yeah, right, yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions that I know there's some people here from the public concerned about driveway access next to the bridge in particular, and then trees were another concern. I think there's definitely removal of one on the Fairfield side. Do you know if there's more than that? And would they be replanting anything when the project is completed?
I'm not sharing right now, but share again.
No, that's okay.
Okay. So on the planting plan, which is the last set of the permit plans, there are a bunch of trees that are a gray circle. Those are all called out as protect tree to remain. So a majority of those are remaining. There is one, it looks like near the end of the project that has an X through it, which would be one that's coming out on the Fairfield side. It's
The drive.
well, it's a little bit further east of the driveway, probably 20, 30 feet east of the driveway. There's one that's coming out. And there's a couple on the side as well. And that's, just from a.
Would you mind showing it on the plan?
Sure, okay.
Thank you so much. Let me see if I can do this share again.
Pretty much.
Is the backup available online or no?
The backup.
Plan? Yeah.
I think it's all available. It's all on the cloud, yes.
Okay, oh, we have a neighbor that was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Coming up, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So, so bridge is here.
Yeah, there.
And here's the driveway here. And so here's the area of the tree that's coming out, is this one with the X on it. So it's about.
The property line.
Yep, you're right, at the property line. These other ones that are shaded in gray, all are called out to be protected.
Yeah, because there is an issue right now that there's a bunch of
All right, before we do that, so if you're gonna speak, that's fine. Tell us your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Roberta Taplano, and that's my property. It's on the corner, which is 288 Wetlands.
That is your driveway?
That's right, my
Okay. Thank you.
And there's already some issues with some of the trees. They're completely dead that have to be removed by the town because otherwise they're gonna fall on the power lines. Which is something that I don't know if my husband has already brought to the attention. I don't know if that's one of them. I have to look, but there were some pictures because there's one on the riverbed and then there's two right towards that area. So you're saying that you're gonna keep the big ones right now that are currently there?
That are shaded in gray are to remain, and I didn't see it, but underneath the green here, there's one right next to the bridge. It looks like it has an X on it as well. I apologize for not seeing
Okay,
that.
so if you remove some trees that, obviously when you remove trees, I would assume that, how does that affect, and, what's going on and, the water retention or the property slope or Because they now, I mean, obviously trees serve a purpose, but how would that affect it? And would you replant something there?
Well, the planting is already listed there, so he's already provided that information. So, what is it?
Town only remove trees in the right of way.
In the right of way, yeah.
If they're on your own property, that's your responsibility.
So those trees,
Trees are in the right of way, town will remove them. If they're on your property, then you're responsible.
so if what we're doing here is they're giving us information about this project as it relates to the wetlands. If you have issues that relate simply to your trees, you would have to look at where the trees are in relation to the right of way. And then if they're within the right of way, they do what they need to do. If they're outside of it, that would be your. Okay. Anything else, sir? Oh.
Do you have another concern?
Yeah, I do. I have a bunch of questions, actually. Okay. He was talking about, also raising the road slightly. You were saying that you would raise it slightly to accommodate the bridge. Okay, because we've had some issues with that. We had flooding in our, we have the 100-mile markings, and when the house was built up the road and they did what they did with the different pitching and everything, we got inundated with water. And it was really, really bad. After that, they put the new road because of all the complaints and whatever, and that road was higher. And it kept flooding into our driveway, and it was really, really bad. I mean, my skirt collapsed. I'm having issues with it now. You're talking about raising it even more. How is that gonna affect me? Because now I've been having issues with that all along. And now if you're gonna raise it even more, that's gonna create another problem. And then there's all the water that just comes into my property and bunches up. How are we gonna deal with that?
Couple of different ways. I guess what I want to paint the picture of is, right now the bridge is only 23 feet wide. We're going out to 38 feet wide, almost doubling the size of it. And right now with the flood elevation, it actually hits the bridge and doesn't, has to overtop the road. The water hits the bridge, right? You've seen it, I haven't, but.
It gets very high.
It hits the bridge. So we're widening this out so that the water won't hit the bridge. It will actually just make it under. And so it won't be overtopping the road. And from our, the models that we've run, the upstream elevation, water surface elevation is right spot here. This is the one, I'm sorry. It's gonna be almost 2 feet less, 1.8 feet less. So upstream, because we've
Upstream meaning going
eating up towards your property, or it hits the bridge, because we've opened that up, the water will be going through the bridge, flowing through there better.
You're opening even the bottom part of
Yes.
the river so that
Yes.
right now it's very tight.
Yes.
You're gonna open it up. So that means that the water will be lower, more shallow than what it is now, right?
Yep.
How's that gonna affect the area? I mean,
Water won't hit the bridge, water will go through the bridge.
So it should come up and go over and possibly go into your property.
The plan show touching the apron at all? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a Belgian block apron, I think.
which is,
Cobblestone. And the other thing I just want to mention, and I whispered to Scott, just in case anyone's wondering, I asked if he'd be willing to, because your husband, unfortunately, I don't want to get into deep, but he couldn't make it today. That Scott is willing to do like a 5 or 10 minute Zoom call with you or any other neighbors interested to answer questions. Because this, and we really appreciate, it's really a conservation meeting. And when you get into these kind of details, they'll say, no, it's beyond our scope. So appreciate the opportunity to just go a little bit into detail and answer these questions. So he's willing to meet with me down to the neighbors, and this way your husband will get to hear it as well. So you don't have to be just a messenger. So thank you, Scott, on that. And then I think that will, I think, be a good transition to wrap it up here.
I have to tell you, ma'am, I get the feeling that they're really open and cooperative. There have been other people, plus and other issues that aren't as open and cooperative here, so I think you're in good hands. Just my humble opinion. I can't prove it, I don't know this gentleman, I don't know his company, but that's how I'm feeling, getting in good hands.
Well, the alternatives were very carefully considered. So I mean, if you read it, it's not saying just an alternative, it says the benefits, and then it says the disadvantages. They're all compared, and then the advantages against the one before it. It seems very thorough.
As a quick answer, we should be about a half a foot below your driveway,
It's like, okay, and
lower than your driveway. And, you know, this is the once in a million lifetime of a 100-year storm. That's, you know,
Yes.
there's never been a perfect storm, but that's, you know, for what's modeled and what we have to do for regulations, it would be lower than that.
so we have a fence right now. And there's a slope, going down when you come on the other side. Are you going to be touching any of that or no?
If it's on public property, yes, we'll be
So again,
within the right of way.
you need to determine where the right of way is, and then you'll.
The right of way is what's before the fence, is that it?
I wrote the street. So I think you go from the middle of the road and you go 20 feet in.
Okay.
They're all different.
Everybody's different, so figure it out. Somebody's gonna be able to help you in your particular street.
Detailed plans show
And
the
show it,
way and
maybe when you do the Zoom, you can show it and say from here, put some landmarks and say, everything on this side is right of way, everything on the outside is.
All the plans that are here at the town do have the right of way lines on it.
Was it staked yet?
I know it's been surveyed. I mean, we're still, construction probably won't even start until 2025, just.
So, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask her, do you have any other comments or questions that are conservation related?
Right.
Not to your necessarily about your property.
So this is a plan that's been brought in front of us, and they've given us information. If you have some information that you want to share that you want to do this, tell us. If you don't want it to happen because it'll somehow be a detriment to the area, you tell us that. It seems like here's our specific what happens to me, the situation. And they'll be willing to work with you with that, but for this particular purpose, we're in a public hearing. And so they just finished their presentation and, now we said a few things, but are you, if they work with you, are you okay with this plan to do the bridge, or do you not want this bridge changed?
I mean, obviously I question, the traffic, the noise, the impact it's gonna have on, all the animals and everything else. And I'm concerned just because of what I saw with what happened up until now, how it affected us and how our land got inundated with water. And it wasn't exactly the best situation for us. So I'm just being honest. I mean, we had flood zones. I mean, I couldn't get out of my driveway. And I'm concerned because also that goes into the river and it affects the river. I mean.
Gotcha. Let the commissioner ask you.
Like I said, do you think 6 months worth of construction and noise is worth flooding?
If that's gonna happen, right, because, we've done that before. If that doesn't happen, that would be great. If my driveway doesn't get ruined, like it did before is happening right now, I'm full.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay.
Just wanted to point out, Department Heights generates a review and kind of Cliff's Notes versions of the application. Those are publicly available. They weren't sent directly to John, so I don't know if he has those. There's a few comments in there. Just getting back to the planting plan quickly. I recommended swapping out the Siberian dogwoods. They're non-native or something similar. Other things in there, but just wanted you to know that that's something we generate that gets sent to John at
Sure.
CHA.
Okay.
Who I had my
Yeah,
point
those
of
kind of
contact.
recommendations are fine. We'll incorporate those if you're, I don't think any of us are married to this. We, we've tried to do the best. And if there's something that you have some local knowledge of.
For my recommendations to the agencies.
So your position is if our director's recommendations, change plans or whatever, you guys will be on board with it. Not this big.
Yeah, as long as, he's not recommending some type of invasive species, which he's not. So, yeah, we what's right. So, yeah, absolutely.
I think everybody's on the same page regarding that. Any further comments or questions from any commissioners? Okay, so this was, anybody here or online that'd like to speak in support of this application now? Anybody here or online that'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay. Guess we need to get out of the public or close this one down. So, motion to close.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second. And Rick second. Okay, all in favor to close public hearing? Aye. All right, thank you, sir. Before we move on, there's an application. The applicant is requesting a fee waiver. I'd like to take that up now.
For this application, we did ask for a fee waiver.
Yeah.
As it's a municipal project.
All of that.
Anybody? Good. First, second, any comments?
It looks really well thought out. I'm happy to.
Yeah, okay,
And it's being funded by the state.
okay. Then all in favor to waive fee? Aye. Ted is a yes as well. Very good. And now,
Look, is the next step.
okay, we'll move on then. Here now.
Oh, he's back.
Oh,
Sitting here waiting.
okay. I prefer to stay with it, with this application, it's fresh in our minds, so I'd like to discuss. No, but it's the only one that's here, and then we can run through the rest of it. Any comments, folks?
I think it's they've demonstrated need, they've considered alternatives, they've done the best they have, they've proposed mitigations. Everything we could ask for, I don't see any.
Right on board, I love it. It's great.
Right?
You know,
Good job, you get working harder for it.
let's move it fast. Any in favor?
Right before Jay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. Anthony's first, Kate second, all in favor? Yeah.
Yeah, moving the step for.
Okay, so all is approved. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your help and your input.
Thank you. So now we're moving on to number 6, actually number 5, applications for receipt. There aren't any, so we go to number 6, application for discussion. This is number 1, continued modification request for WP 22-159, WP -23-165, total 3 LLC, 61 Cross Highway, 170, parcel 38. Request to allow material generated by construction and additional retaining remain as existing conditions, as well as modifications to the proposed house, driveway, patios, stormwater detention system, and septic system in a regulated area. So Commissioner Fain has recused himself from this application. Is the applicant or the representative? Hello.
Hello,
Please, your name and what's
my
going on?
name is Tim McManus. I'm a certified professional soil scientist with J.M. Wetland Consulting Services with offices in Newtown. And my.
You don't mind, Jim, do you? How are you?
Hop in.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Hello.
The applicant.
Yes, okay, so,
I'm here in front of you tonight for the first time on this particular project. I'll start from the very beginning. Sure. I was asked by the applicant. To, site and, for an upcoming development at that point. And that was back in May of 2022. At that time, my main focus was to look at the wetland boundary that was established by J. Fain and Associates. And also to gather baseline information for any future reporting that it may be necessary. And at that time, I reviewed the boundary and I found that the boundary was correct. I didn't find any additional wetlands or any corrections that were needed during that time. So here we are. I was contacted to come out because they added new slopes along the southern and the western side of these proposed development that is ongoing. And I went out in October of 2023, and then I went out just recently in January of this year to take a view of actually what happened and how it looks. And so that's what I did, and I produced a report that's dated January 23rd. I hope you all have that. The regulated resources, I'm not sure how much information you know, but I'll just go through my report.
Yeah, please do that.
The regulated resource itself is a wooded swamp, an intermittent water course. It's sort of on the eastern part of the site, and it sort of scoops around to the southern side, and that's where the water course takes up. It goes down slope, and then that goes along the private road on the western side of the site where it hits drainage pipes, goes underneath the private road to a larger wetland that's to the west. Again, it's a wooded swamp. When I was there in May of 2022, the majority of the site had certainly had historic disturbance, including the wetlands.
Mind if I ask you,
Sure.
when you went there in 2022, timeframe of that, was that prior to?
Any construction.
Was that prior to or after the Inland Wetlands Agency approved the original permit? Are you aware?
Not aware. I would say that was prior to any permits given before the house that's in construction now. Yes. Because we needed to figure out if the boundary, I needed to go figure out, make sure the boundary was correct before we even came here, because if it wasn't correct, then but that wasn't the problem. And then it came to you folks.
Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in my report, I hope with their color, I'm not sure if they made it to you color, but I do have colored photos of what the site, some photos of the site I saw in May of 22. Those are the photos one of the two. They're not, doesn't look like they're gonna be colored.
I think they're color in the cloud.
Yes, they are. They should be colored there. So that's 1 and 2 and 3, actually, I'll just describe these photos to you. So the first photo that you're looking at, essentially the western part of the site. It's kind of the wetland along this picture, the private road would be on the right-hand side, outside of the vegetation. That's kind of what we're dealing with there. The picture number 2 is sort of the southern part of the wetland before it starts to go down the slope. And then 3 is sort of the eastern part of the site, kind of where the water course starts to pick up and dump down the slope. You can see some of the phragmites that were in that wetland at the time. Picture number 4 is taken in January. You could see the slope that has been constructed with the rocks. Yeah. And then again, picture number 5 and 6. Picture 5 kind of is the similar picture than the one that you saw from 22. Road again, private road is to the right-hand side of the picture. The new slope is on the left, and then that wetland, which has a narrow water course there. And then finally, it's just one more picture kind of showing you what the slope looks like. So I'm standing on the private road. Also, at the time I was there in 22, and also this time, I did a little function value assessment, and I came up with that there's 3 principal functions. There are other functions, but they're not principal, and those are marked as Y on 81, which is on page 6. The reason for this assessment is mainly due to low diversity of plants that I noted, particularly in 22, and when I came back and visited, particularly in October. Invasive species, presence of prior disturbances, and also the residential constructed sort of itself to a little less higher function and value. I reviewed the plans that you have in front of you, and there are no direct impacts as far as I'm understanding. And I also looked at short and long-term indirect impacts. Those deal with like erosion control and water hydrology of the wetlands and things like that. And the long and short of it is that the additional fill that was added along the southern and western part of the site, that in the new slope, these activities, in my opinion, did not result in any adverse significant impacts to the resources.
You're going to talk about the significant impacts, but you're not going to talk about the stop work order and
I'm talking about the work that was done and if that had a significant adverse impact to the regulated resource. Commissioners, any questions?
what about the tree line? Increase everything. Talk about that or just?
No, I'm talking about the wetland itself, whether the activity of additional trees and an additional slope had an impact on the regulated resource. My conclusion is.
When we were there, we identified debating whether foundation on the left.
The photos. So my apologies, point of order. Would you ask them to present the photos from their site visit, please?
Show us the photos, because I wasn't privy.
I'm saying behind the new foundation, the property.
What,
to the left.
east, west,
Let's say left, facing from the street.
From the street to the left-hand side.
Right. In that corner, there seems to be was possibly some sort of water course. Not, that's there. So our concern was one behind the wood pile. The farthest, you want to come up the driveway? Right. Keep going back.
Yeah.
There's boulders.
Okay.
Back left.
That's already been flagged as a wetland.
Yeah.
So it's already protected.
Well, it's part of the, it's not, that's part of the issue, right? Because it's been disturbed, there's trees that are there. So that's part of what we saw.
It's on 28 of what we documented.
Number 28. I would have to look, I wasn't there on the site.
I don't mean that, I'm just saying, I'm kind of surprised I was interested to know if you felt there was a water course back there.
Where's the water course running to?
Well, we can't determine that now because it looks like the whole area has been liberated.
When I was there in May of 2022, before anything happened, I didn't note a water course. My water course I noted was the wetland on the eastern part of the site, I guess what you're talking about. It sort of swings to the south and goes down the hill, and that's where the water course is. The rest of it was just the easily saturated wooded swamp. That's what I noted in 22. Yeah, I was there in October 23 and January of this year.
What's the clearing?
Yeah.
For that, because I came out to see the new slope and see if there was been any impacts to the wetlands.
For October 23 or?
No, I was there, I was there in May of 2019 of 22 before anything happened. And then I returned to the site October 30th of 2023.
Right.
And the slope had already been developed at that.
Right.
Constructed. I returned to the site in January of 2024, which is this year. And the slope looked essentially the same, maybe a little bit more buttoned up. And then they added a row of evergreens on the southern end of the top of the slope, if you will. And then they added a chain link fence. You can see in my picture picture number 4 shows you that chain link fence. I recall that being in there in October.
This was not. rearmost of the property, you regard it's like flat.
Was
In 22, like it is now.
Vegetated, I mean,
You mean,
the closest I can answer that is, I would have to go back into some of my photos, but photo number 3, photo, and it's gonna be black and white, but that's actually the southern part of the area that you're discussing, and that's pretty flat there. That was flat. It picks up slope there, and you go to picture 2. That's picture 2 is where it starts to pick up slope and travel down the hill.
So let me ask you this question, just from my personal viewing while we were there on the site,
What day was that?
whenever the notice was,
26 of the.
it was
December 26th.
Yes, gotcha.
Yeah, it was noticed, and it was a sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any vegetation of wetlands. There was no trees, no nothing. It was clear cut and almost looked like it was new soil put down, and so.
Chairman is absolutely correct.
Yes.
Yes, Chairman, you're absolutely correct. If I may inject, point of order.
Okay, sure. You're the applicant, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, your name again?
My name is Chris Taylor. First off, let me apologize to each and every one of you. I'm sorry I'm taking up your time with this. You have been very gracious in an effort to let us build there, and we greatly appreciate it. I have my family here, and they appreciate it. And Chairman Thomas, I know you're counselor. Do you want to be referred to as Attorney Thomas or Chair?
Call me Chairman. That's what I'm here.
Chairman, and on the way out of our meeting a long time ago at the Board of Ed, you said, Chris, stay out of the wetlands and you won't have any problem. I stayed out of the wetlands. I took your advice because a word to the wise is usually sufficient. You seem like a straight shooter. Everybody in the commission was very gracious to us in the approval, and I didn't want to take advantage. I'm not a spec builder. I'm living there with my family. We're a multi-generational family. And personally, I think the notice of violation was inappropriate. But my wife and I discussed it. We weren't going to fight. We're just going to do whatever Director Bishop or Wetlands Enforcement Officer Nefesi requested. During a meeting in the town hall, I was instructed by Director Tim Bishop to get my big grapple machine and go in and clean up the wetlands. And that's exactly what I did. It's documented in emails. There was a memorandum that rises to the place of slander, which I'm upset with, that was distributed. Anything I did in the wetlands was under the direction of Director Tim Bishop. And that is correct. I did it. I notified him. We had excellent dialogue and communication. I thought I and Wetlands Officer Nefesi established a professional working relationship where it was an open door policy. And then I get slammed with a memorandum several days ago that I wasn't informed of, that is absolutely rises to the case of liable. And this is why we're here. I was told this was going to be a desktop approval, pay my $2,500, my $8,000 site disturbance fee, and off we go. I'm mortified. This is not what I intended to do. You guys are busy. I mean, the 50% of Fairfield is in the wetlands, and you will have a staff of 2 to manage it, and you guys. I mean, I wrote a letter to the Selectman's Deputy Chief of Staff Carpenter to increase their budget by $1 million, promote Officer Nefesi to a Deputy Director, and put 3 wetland compliance officers. It's too much for them. In their defense, it's just too much work. It's not fair. And I plan on petition the Finance Board for that and the Selectmen as well. So I don't think I've done anything wrong to be here. I've talked to Council Matt Willis, who's a wetland specialist at Howler and Sage. I think Mr. Bishop jumped the gun when he gave me a cease and desist.
I'm going to ask you to keep your comments to your application,
Okay.
not to staff and what they have or have not done.
Okay. I apologize. I apologize for my parliamentary lacking.
Letter was sent out to you, the notice was sent out to you. The permits have all been stopped, and not just from my understanding, not just from our agency at the commission, also from zoning.
No, that is incorrect, building department, but that has been resolved with chief building.
It may have been resolved now, but at the point in time in December when we were out there, it was a full stop.
Yes, correct. You're 100% correct.
Now, you mentioned counsel from another firm, will they be coming to represent you?
No, only if we go to Superior Court will they step in and represent.
Okay.
I'm not looking, I don't want any problems. I want to make you guys happy. I want you to be proud of me. You said, here's a model wetland example. I've never had an erosion violation. I've never had any problem. There was one incident that wasn't my fault. Officer Nefesi drafted a plan. I did the plan immediately and superseded the amount of planting she's wanted. I've been very cooperative. Johnston Zabrowski has been on the site. I have exceeded the 2002 soil erosion things. Erosion, soil sediment going into wetlands is the most detrimental thing to the wetlands. It's sediment. I would think a fuel oil truck rolling over and it would be as bad as well, but according to the 2022 guidelines, sediment is the worst thing. I've had no sediment releases. I haven't been in the wetlands. I've instructed my kids not to go into wetlands. Our dog doesn't go into wetlands.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. You're blaming a lot of people, but you did a lot of damage.
I did no damage, Commissioner. I resent that statement. I was directed by that gentleman there to go in and clean it up, and I did exactly what he said, and I have it in writing. I'll hold myself responsible if I did something wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I did as instructed, with my only intent was to try and please.
I ceased and desist. Did you bring in Phil Powell?
No, that was after.
After the cease and desist, stop working.
Hang on. Let's back up. He gave me a cease and desist in July. I instantly stopped working. I did not resume working till December 4th. I worked from December 4th till December 19th or 21, when I found out the permit was not active. I was told by various parties it was a desktop approval. My wife ran down to Joanne, $2,500 check and an $8,000 site to service fee, and I was told we were all set. Once the checks cleared, I went back to work. I put up the fence because the insurance company said, hey, listen, if somebody falls off there, it's a liability. You got a fence in. I put in some wetland applicable trees along the side instead of putting a fence there so the neighbor didn't have to look at it. I wasn't trying to do anything or pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I was just blatantly honest with
Let
it.
me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
It says here, evidence of recent excavated earthwork, grading and tree berm during the December 26, 2023 site visit was observed despite the permit suspension. Notice of violation permit suspension explicitly stated that no further work should be performed.
That is 100% correct. I am guilty of that.
So what made you
You
think?
just said you did it.
December 4th. On December 4th,
I started working again. Okay. Listen, I'll accept responsibility for that. I was under the impression when I paid the fees, and I believe I got it from Jason and other people, that I was all set. So I apologize. I stopped for 6 months. I mean, I wasn't there.
But you know you have to get a work order to start again once you.
I know, I was on, no, I don't know that. And I respectfully disagree. I was told I was set. I paid the money. I'm paying another site fee, which doesn't sound equitable for a site disturbance fee, and I can't disturb the site. I was compliant. Why would I ruin it at the last minute? It makes absolutely no sense. I mean, it just, and then once I found out I wasn't, I talked to Jason, he said, oh, you can't work there yet. I immediately stopped. I mean, I'll accept the bullet for that. If you want to fine me for that, I'll take the fine, but it wasn't done.
That's just a little,
Yeah.
It wasn't done on malice.
Stop. I'm losing track of this. You said you were set.
That's what I was told.
It's turning into well, who told you were set? I don't get this.
I believe Jason Spath and Joanne, the secretary, told my wife we were all set.
You have it ready?
No, I don't, sir.
Jason Spath and Hunting.
Okay, I'm just saying that,
Fair enough.
can we slow down?
Sure.
There's a tape and people that are not sitting here with you don't know who you're talking. That's all I'm saying. Be a little more specific.
No.
I'm losing track and I'm sitting with you. There's people watching. Right.
Then you should know that you to get a work order
Well,
when you have a violation.
listen, I'll take the bullet for that. Listen, I throw myself on the mercury.
Mistakes happen. I get that.
Let me ask you this. What about, just think about it, maybe talk to council. What you came in front of us with is a modification of an old permit. My personal view, what's there now doesn't look like anything like the original permit. Okay? It might be best for you to withdraw this modification and come with a brand new application to say, this is what I want, where I need to fix, and I'm gonna do this, and that might be a better avenue for you. That's only a suggestion. You don't have to do that.
I respectfully appreciate that, but I decline. I feel I'm in the right. I am wrong for going back to work, and I'll take the bullet for that. And if there's consequences I have to take for that, I'll accept them. It was an honest mistake. I believe in authority. I respect the authority of the commission. I worked very closely with both parties. I have an email, him saying that, you know, the people avoid him. I don't. I mean, this is a mistake. It wasn't a willful.
Yes, Commissioner.
The original notice of violation from July 18th. The retaining wall under construction and located east of the loose laid stone wall parallel to the roadway was not included nor approved under WP-22-159. Neither was the aggregate and steep grading adjacent to the wetlands, thereby calling into question the overall grades and elevations site-wide. So that was not resolved before. So you started the work on December 5th, but so I don't understand how you thought that's still outstanding, that you could move forward.
I was under the impression from engineers and the secretary and my wife that everything had been worked out with the conservation team, and that I gave a letter of consent and I had to go down and pay the $2,500 fee and another $8,000 site disturbance. All that was done prior to, I didn't do that after the stop order. The only thing I did after the stop order was put up the fence for security purpose in the pine trees.
Because that's how it should go. That's how it should have gone, right? So something that you did wasn't in the original application.
Well, here's what I have.
Commissioner O'Mahony just laid out what that is. The wall.
Can I address that?
Not done.
Sorry.
Once I'm done. Okay. So you came before us with your lovely family and we approved it. We were happy for you. We really were.
Appreciate that.
Okay. And then I don't know what the issue with the site monitor was. It doesn't matter. But then months later, there's this retaining wall, there's this new slope. All of that is within a regulated area. And you didn't ask us to do that. You just did that. So that's what prompted the notice of violation, okay? And now, we're here now dealing with that because we want to know from you, what is it that you want to, how will you remedy that?
When it's my, would you let me know when it's my turn to speak?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Respectfully, I'm a site contract for 30+ years. I have an expert witness here, Richard Testa, that's going to testify about that. I have an engineer, Mike Material, that's going to testify about it. That was solely done for a shakeout area. It was a place to put the materials, the storage container, the office trailer. That was never meant to stay. That the slope was too steep for the framer to drive his lull in site work. Your elevations and grades change all the time. Most of that material is not imported, it's from on site. It was crushers, screeners were brought in. We got blasting permits, we blasted for days. I'm a site contractor. I have 30 years, I've been a superintendent. I've worked for OMG, Thomas Hollison Patterson, Blakesley, Turner, Tully. I've got a construction background, it's pretty well. You go in, you have to build ramps, roadways to get concrete trucks in, materials in. That slope, which I didn't have a problem with it, I was so grateful to get it, and we were appreciative and everybody's on the same page. I do site work, and my subs need a flat surface to work on. And I discussed this with Mr. Bish after he gave the violation. I said, you're micromanaging my site processes. I'm not. What I erected is a temporary wall. Versalox was put up to guard the protective service because if anything ever went down the hill and hit the temporary service, you're getting killed. Electricity kills. We run machines that are made of iron, and it could have been a fatality. Human life means something to me. I have a OSHA safety record for the last 30 years. So what I did is, and this was with Jonathan, the site monitor there, it was a temporary structure to protect the temporary service. The Versalock walls come apart, which Mr. Testa will testify to. I erected the wall and then made a flat level area. Then I took a double layer of geotextile filter fabric and I coated the whole hill. I did what's called armoring it, according to 202, which is the most stringent erosion control possible. So I did that. Then I put the boulders, then I armored it with modified riprap. So no sediment, as he testified, could ever get through that. We've never had a sediment release. And then it was grading. During an inspection, the director showed up and didn't ask me, didn't give me a chance to explain it, issues a notice of violation. So I was planning on, the way we do it is we work our way out of the job. We'll get the house built, we'll get the pool in, we'll move in, do the septic, the drainage, take the fill out, do the grades. The only time ever that you check the grades is when you go for the as-built, when you say you're done. I mean,
I gotta stop you right there. I'm gonna stop you right there. You know, you just said a couple of times you've been a contractor for 30 years. You know, if you're gonna stop work order, you know you can't start again.
sure, I've already owned it. I mean, you're gonna.
You just said you've been a contractor.
I have.
You know you can read a plan. So if that's the case, I'm looking at this picture of all this land clearing in the wetlands. And you know, as a contractor for 30 years, you can't do that.
Commissioner, are you not aware that I was instructed by Mr. Bishop to go in there? I have it in writing?
Who cleared this out in the first place?
I cleared. Well, let's ask
I
Mr.
gotta be honest, it seems like a little bit of asking for forgiveness rather than.
That's exactly what I was.
That's what I'm saying.
That, I could see why you see that.
How can you not?
Well,
I mean, everything that's been done and seen on this site is a disaster.
I disagree. I don't think it's a disaster. There's been no impact to the wetlands.
Look, simply,
I can only deal with one at a time. It's not fair to double.
I just think what Gary's getting at, it seems to me, you made a statement that that's the normal course of construction, new text, that's that. But when you're dealing with wetlands in an upland review area, that isn't that, because you can't do.
Well, where does it say in the wetlands regulations, if I may, that you can't alter the grade during construction? I mean,
You get permission to do that from
But I did get-
part of the permit process.
I did get
Your permission was for a certain plan you gave to us.
correct.
That plan doesn't comply with what's there now.
I didn't call for a final inspection. I wasn't done.
You wouldn't be able to do that. It's not a regular, unregulated site. This is a inland wetland.
I understand.
Site, and it's all surrounded by it, really, on three sides.
Absolutely.
So forget about it just being only a small portion. It's the whole property is regulated.
Exactly, sir, but
You move a rock, you cut down a tree, you put in half an inch of fill. All of that needs to get permission from us before you do that.
then how could I that's what I thought coming you, the original was to get permission to do all that. I mean, so I'm confused and I'm not trying to.
Outlined in your application, nor was the staging area. So if
How do you
that
out-
was what you were anticipating.
How do you outline that on a site application? I mean,
The one
there's,
that just came before us was a good example.
I think that's maybe what you're gonna, you can't just go in and act like this is just unregulated. The reason why you had to come before us in the first place is because it's a regulated area. And that's why the site monitor was there. And I know you're saying to remove the debris pile, and then I know you said that maybe you didn't understand because the staff didn't know that the area was gonna look different in the winter versus when it's leaked out.
I'm confused. What are you speaking about? Are you speaking about the filler or the going
In
in?
one of your letters, you were saying that you were, when you called into question the moving in the wetland area, that you're calling into question whether or not they could understand the difference between a leafed out area and when it's gonna look different in December.
Yes, it looks different in December than it does in July.
Exactly, but they're professionals, and if they come out and they say that, they know the difference between a leafed out area and a winter area.
So is it the commission's position that Director Bishop did not authorize me to go in there and clean it up?
No. So you're here to present your application to modify. If you're gonna start,
Well, I'm not accusing.
so if you're gonna start, then I'm gonna stop it because it's not pertinent to your application to modify.
Okay.
So you said you have experts here. Let's move on to your experts so they can.
Well, I'm not ready to move on. I haven't touched base on what I really wanted to touch base on. And I'm not here to ruffle you guys' feathers. But I am a man of integrity, whether you choose to believe it or not. I'm a family man.
Nobody said anything like that.
This isn't
the same. Questioning your application isn't the same.
So I just feel like I upset Commissioner Alisi, is it?
I don't get upset. No, that's just the way I talk, but I mean, we're just going by the application. Nothing to you personally, it's what we've done on this property.
Address the application only, Chris.
Oh, okay. Here, I'll take that. Thank you, Mr. Is it Boucher? Butcher? No. It says Butcher.
Boucher.
Application.
Application.
Go.
Talk.
So application. I apologize. I'm not here for trouble and I just want to live peacefully. I don't want to do anything. I'll take the bullet for it. Find me. I apologize to all of you. I'll do some planting, I'll do whatever this commission wants me to do. I would just like to have a yard for my family. At the end of the day, as long as it doesn't impact the wetlands and you guys could find in your heart to give me a pass on it, anything I did was not malicious. I'm a family man. I have my family here. You guys were gracious to me. I wasn't looking for trouble. And I think the staff would tell you that I think I've been a pleasure to deal with. They've asked me for something. I've done it. I'll accept full responsibility for it. I vented my position. What you choose to do with it's up to you. I will apologize. I would appreciate it if you would approve the application. It would mean a great deal to us. And if, other than a motion and me doing things wrong, I'm happy to pay for that. I'm happy to pay a fine or some volunteer work or plant. But at the end of the day, I would appreciate it if you didn't punish me.
You have other experts here or other people, the professionals that are going to be testifying as to this?
Yes, Mike Shavlin and Mike Paterla and Richard Kesta, if you would like to. If
we're going to have to hear from all of them.
Okay,
that might be a good time to have them come up so we can go through it and see what they're going to be able to tell us.
Would you like first?
The applicant, whoever
You're the boss.
However you'd like to present your application.
Mike Shavlin? Engineer first. Okay.
You know what I need? What I need is definition between what was approved, what was done. The difference, because now you're asking.
I think the plans are in your file. What was approved?
You're kind of asking us to approve something that wasn't part of the original application, probably wouldn't have been approved, but you know, and that's my problem.
And I feel
I
like
want to
this,
stick to the subject.
without any assurances that the violations have been remediated.
there seems to be a lack of education maybe that on what exactly needs to happen when you're working in a regulated area.
Please, go ahead.
Again, I believe the plans speak about are in the file. A plan that we show, I had a septic system and a stormwater system proposed, and a proposed house and a driveway. What we did, there's a violation and stopped. Prepared a plan that shows what was done, what existed, and preparing the application. We know which way to go with the application. Modification. It was already. You guys needed a permit, we would have certainly turned this into a plan.
Is that something your client would be willing to do? Because I think that might be a better.
Absolutely not. Important.
I think what our wetlands person said, once the rock wall footprint that shows where the easement was, still didn't encroach beyond the easement. There's more fill that was put there than was shown on the permit that was issued. Not encroach in the wetland boundary. I understand, even if there's a tiny corner of a piece of property that has regulated area. Property is regulated.
The retaining wall had not been. Okay, so,
one
I mean, I'm kind of like, where are we now?
But
I'll tell you what, I just heard, give me a pass. Not doing it.
Deal.
A lot of wet, I don't think any hostile.
That was never my intention.
Nobody hostile. That kind of word, when it comes to wetlands, that's not a good word to use.
Well, I
I
didn't mean any disrespect,
Yeah, I don't think-
Commissioner Hood. I mean, I was trying to accept responsibility for it.
Not accepting responsibility.
Well, what would your recommendation be to do with it?
Thank God. Retaining wall and fill had not been approved.
That is correct.
How are we dealing with that?
That's why we're here.
Well, I don't think asking pass is
I was asking for approval. I apologize. I'm a street guy. I didn't mean any disrespect by it.
That's true, you're right.
Are you saying is that, I'll just speak for myself, I would like to see the violations remediated before we even consider this.
Why wouldn't I have just done that? My wife and kids wanted the front yard. I had a discussion with the powers to be from the agency, and this was the best. I mean,
They're professionals. They know what they're doing. The powers to be are us here.
well, but I can't get access to you, so I have to go to them. That's not a fair position to put me in, Chairman.
Ask them, say, I want to be on the agenda.
But I did have a meeting with them, and that was the recommendation we pursued. We went back and forth with it. And I mean,
Let me ask you this, so in this.
I tell you what, I'll make it.
There are emails, there are emails from you to Mr. Bishop, but I don't see any of the emails from Mr. Bishop to that confirm what you're saying.
Mr. Bishop elected not to put them in a record. I sent them to him. He declined to put them in a record.
That doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Everything you gave me, Chris.
Anything you send,
Okay.
if you
Got an email from you said you weren't putting them in. So,
I was not putting in the regulations that we all know.
and the affidavits from the hunter that was on site. Okay, I'm not here to argue.
It was the response emails, not the regulations.
Commissioner, Chairman.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody's disappointed with me. Can we make an agreement? Can we come to a stipulation? I tell you what, reinstate my permit so the framer can start and I can get my and I'll remove all the stuff.
Let me tell you something. This is how it works here. What
Ridiculous, what,
we have no,
in a house?
it doesn't work like that.
Okay, it was just a suggestion.
So you have you come in front of us to modify an old application.
Correct.
We approved that old application. The time the old application was approved to now, stuff happened here that we weren't aware of and we didn't approve.
Right, absolutely.
If you haven't gotten the vibe, I think most of the commissioners are upset that those things happened.
And they have every reason to be. I agree
We
with you.
also have the vibe that you're simply saying, as one of the commissioners said earlier, forgive me, I did something wrong, but I'm not changing what I did. So just forgive me, let me move forward and put a frame up on my house.
That is what I asked for originally.
That's gonna be.
Seem receptive to
That's what
that.
you're trying to do.
No, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to prevent from being homeless, is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
What I said, if we could find a reasonable common ground as human beings that all have to evolve together.
A simple question.
Yes.
If I keep repeating, the retaining wall and fill had not been approved, where did you get the idea to do that kind of stuff in the first place?
I explained that. They weren't permanent. They were only temporary.
We can remove those tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you start by, we'll table this. You start remediating all the things that were in the notice of violation and then come in front of us again.
No, I respectfully decline that. What I will do is, with your permission, your consent, if this works for you guys.
I'll be honest with you, you really don't have the upper hand in this situation.
No, I really don't, but I'm already screwed, so what's the difference? I mean,
Trying to help
I
you.
understand. Listen,
Trying to help
I
you.
am, and if you want to help me, be human beings and help me.
Trying to help you and you say no, it's not the way to help you.
How will I know unless I ask? The Lord says knock and the door shall open. So what I would propose to the commission, if you could find, I'll state my permit and I'll immediately start removing the walls and I'll do it exactly the way it was and I'll pay the framer extra. I'll get a crane and a platform in. My problem is time. That I'm happy to put it back to the way it was. That was my original discussion. My family wanted the front yard. I paid $1,000 and Jonathan Zabrowski to do the permit to restore it. We had a family meeting. They wanted it different. Okay, guys, we can't have a front yard. It's over and done with. I'll put it back the way it was and remove the stuff. I mean, I'll give you everything. I'll do whatever you want.
In your original submission, you didn't include a staging area.
No, I had no idea.
Tractor, you do this all the time.
I have never, ever been required in any site plan to ever delineate a staging area, an office trailer.
Have you ever done anything in a regulated area?
Yes, I have. And listen, if this went on and my site monitor watched it weekly and understood what I was doing from discussion and he approved it, That's why I hired him, is to guide me where I didn't know. In all fairness, it's not like I went in there like a rogue combat guy and said, hey, screw you guys. I had a professional that was referred to me by the town of Fairfield that stood by and watched. We had meetings. We understood what was going on, and he said he was the liaison between myself and the department.
Are you gonna have any other experts?
Yes, when Mike Paterno is done, listen, I imagine you guys want to get out of here. I mean, if we could agree, I'll put it back.
We're volunteering our time.
You are. You guys get a stipend?
We're not gonna do anything. If it takes some time, we're gonna do it. So if somebody else wants to, if you wanna, what's the modification request for WP 22-159, then come on. But that's, have your guys talk to why the difference from that original approved permit to where we are now.
Mike Shevlin, owner Huntington Company. I just want to say one thing. It's not, go back and forth on whether we should, have him remediate, then come back. We've done full permit, a new permit, like Mike had said. And if he had, but we were actually told in an email on November 22nd, the recommendation by staff was for us to do permit modification, bring that before. So the reason we're here with permit modification, not a whole new permit, to show the stuff he has there as working and a new design that makes it, that says it works. November 22nd, 23.
I don't know the date, but that's accurate. We did suggest.
That's, it's just a procedure thing, not arguing,
We adding a pool, an apron, a patio, that, building a whole new house.
I don't have a problem with your recommendation. I'm just saying that the reason we're not steps like has been kind of asked is because that was the suggestion. We come in, ask for a modification. And so we put a modification instead of a full new, redesign. We have a full redesign, but we didn't do a new permit, just a modification. I just wanted to clarify that.
Do you kind of see where we're coming from, right? So there was one permit that was issued on one plan. Then about a year or so later, it's completely different. Wet regulator
have spoken to that already. I'm just saying why we only gave you a modification and to try to keep it, under those contexts.
All this stuff was not done. Huntington has worked with the town of Fairfield for many, many years on almost every application we have. Do you think we'd be at this situation?
Again, I don't, I don't know what you guys would have done. I just know that.
Mike knows.
Yeah. And I've had a conversation on the side as far as, where Huntington itself stands, but we are not against him or, we're here to.
I don't know them. I just met him tonight. I don't even have anything against him.
My issue is just the procedure and the fact that we're here for a modification. Fortunately, that's kind of like a black and white type of situation for you guys, I know.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure Mr. Taylor understands that. So you're bringing something in front of us and we can't deviate from that. It's either we approve or we don't approve. So that's why, and the staff recommended a modification. But staff is our staff. They're not the commission. We could always change and say, we don't think that's the right way. We're trying to work with you, just like you're saying you're trying to work with us. It might behoove you to not bring it in front of us as a modification, is all I'm saying.
I could make one comment to your question about if we did this, would you improve what happens out there now? You would have to take in accounts from wetland scientists on their functionality assessment, their impact on the existing.
If the wetland wasn't clear, if the wall wasn't built, if the work had stopped, but we had to come up with a new plan and the plan was submitted to the town.
Right.
And the town body went through it and said, okay, it makes sense. He wants to do this, this, and this. We would say yes or no, but more than likely, we probably would, I can't say if it would be approved or not without seeing the plan, but,
That's kind of the point that I wanted to make too.
You can't say no when you haven't even heard.
Discuss anything about
beyond.
Problem.
That's what you said. You said it probably wouldn't have happened. You can't say that.
What I'm saying is, if all this that was done, that was not supposed to be done.
It happened.
It happened.
Yeah. What if you said we probably wouldn't approve that? You can't say.
I didn't say that. No, I did not say that.
You said we probably wouldn't approve this.
That's not what I said. What I said was, if we have all these violations here in front of us and you want to make a modification to the plan,
Okay.
you would have a better chance than right now with all these violations that we have.
That's, now you're talking about, you're not talking apples and apples.
Well, that's what I said. I mean, it's,
Our engineers came in with a modification that was recommended by the town staff. Now, commission says, well, that was all kinds of violations. But that's.
We didn't know about it at the time.
Let me offer this to make it simple. I think that the issue is that we feel, you're asking the project to move forward. Many of us feel that we need to deal with the past violation before we move forward. Have that resolved, remediated to satisfaction, then we can. Because we are going to vote on either accepting this application or rejecting it, approving it or disapproving it. There's no middle ground. My suggestion would be for you to rescind this application and think about resubmitting.
I greatly respect, I'm gonna decline your bone. I appreciate the suggestion. I'm not being combative. I'm a man of conviction. I feel that I was within.
So what would you like to present?
But I hope you understood.
I think they
This
understand.
is better than,
Listen, I greatly appreciate it. Unfortunately, I'm a man of conviction and principle.
Okay.
And I'm gonna accept your fate like I accepted that fate. And I was hoping that, you know, it would all become a moot point because there was no damage, there's no sediment, there's no damage to wetlands. Yes, the site condition did change. But at the end of the day, I think it became a moot point. I mean, you guys have the authority to approve it. It's not harming anybody. It's not, nobody's complaining about it.
I also agree we have the authority to deny it.
You do. Listen, you have the authority to do everything. I'm at your mercy.
Let's have your engineer talk.
persuaded.
Was there any damage to the wetlands?
I said, I'm not.
I understand, but here's a professional. I'm not questioning your credentials. He's an accredited individual. I mean, if Mr. Bish were to testify there was no damage to wetlands, would you agree with him?
I don't think I'm not here to answer.
Oh, okay, I'm just saying, but you
Let's.
make a statement of that nature.
Sir, lecture.
I'm not done.
Okay.
When I'm done. I afforded you guys
I'm
everything.
going to help you.
I appreciate that.
And one of the problems I have is when we did a site walk, there's oil in the water, and things that I note like that. And, you know, I feel that an undisturbed site, I don't know enough.
What that site was prior to me?
Kind of speaking.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
You know, I'm maybe not articulate and maybe not knowledgeable, but I wonder why is there oil in standing water surrounding a work site? I don't know where it's come from. I just have questions. And so.
That's a reasonable question. I'd like to know myself. We should alert the DEP immediately.
What I'm going to help you, in terms, sounds like you're rejecting the offer that's being made to you, is that I'm not persuaded that there's been no damage. And so you might construe that as a key to how.
So
Well, let me address the oil situation, because that's a serious situation. This is the first I've heard of it. But are you aware that
Pictures are online.
Oil in the upland or in the well?
It's photographs will show
can I see the photograph?
they're online.
I'm just curious because.
The photographs online are the wrong site, just so you know.
Let me say something, please.
Yes, they are.
When you see, water standing in wetlands and you see,
Can somebody pull them up?
oil looking area, the way to check, because one of the first minerals to reduce out of a wetland soil is manganese. And manganese in solution looks like oil, but what happens is if you touch it, it cracks, it breaks, and it's very obvious. Oil is slick, it won't break, it is smooth.
I use the word oil, I think I was pretty clear on. I said oil in appearance, saying, I'll do this is wasting everybody's time.
It is what I'm just,
Me,
Hey,
that's manganese, not oil.
I learned
It's in front of your
it's
house.
not in front of the house.
A little stream at the bottom of the slope.
Manganese.
Very good. So you answered his question. That's very kind of
We
you.
did two sites. the next door, and then we did a sub.
Okay, oh, so you were next. Okay, fair enough. My apologies.
Okay. So the expert has just made a statement that it's manganese with some authority. So we'll take that into consideration. So that helps Commissioner Hood. So let's have your input here.
You mentioned a sign on his letter.
You have, I don't have it. No, Mr. Chairman, I always check I always pump the logger, see if it is oil or is it manganese.
No, that's something I didn't know either. I don't think Commissioner Hood is.
No, well, it's not common knowledge. It's certainly not common knowledge. It's wetlanders. Well, it's a beautiful indicator. You can tell them right away what it is, oil or.
Mr. Chair, did you get the chance to see Jonathan Borowski's report? This,
The JMM.
no, that's JMN. That's Jonathan Borowski was my site monitor.
Oh, yeah. I read that. Yes. So I read it. Yeah.
What else did I want to mention? Yes, I'd like to proceed with the modification. I'd like Mike to talk about the plan, and I'm sorry if I'm upsetting you, but it's not intentional. I just.
It's your application. Been at it for a couple of hours now. Let's take a 5-minute break.
15. And I can't do anything in 5 minutes. Fair enough.
Split the difference, 10 minutes.
Fair enough. Thank you. Is there a water fountain nearby or anything?
It should be. WP 159, which is W 23-156, Muddy Puddle 3 LLC, 361 Cross Highway.
Mr. Chairman, again, my name is Jim McManus, and we have decided as a project team that we're going to withdraw the notification that the commission would like us to do and resubmit a new application correcting the violations as well as the additional, as well as bringing in the items on the site that brought up the modification, as well as other things that we may need to do to rectify violations and town approval with the new application.
I'd like to thank the applicant for taking that road. I think that might be a more possible.
Please, let the chairman talk, please. Thank you.
Don't steal victory.
Really?
I've been known to cut off my nose to spite my face more than once.
Please finish.
Plan is gonna be and how we can move forward.
Do I have to?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. No, you wait.
Are we all cool? I mean, we're all good?
Get the hell out of here.
Didn't hear your last, what you said before.
Get the hell out. He said, no, just kidding.
Here he goes. Here, vote or you're continuing?
They're withdrawing their application.
Oh, okay, I have that.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, you will.
Don't worry.
No, then I will.
I-
So we're now.
You are fucking.
Darn it. This is for informational purposes only. Number one is W-152 875 Millville Road, map 228, parcel 95. That area, that's, again, it's not for tonight, so we're just moving on. I will point out, there were commissioners that were not present January 3rd. Those are Richard and Jerry. And if you'd like to participate, you can, but you'd have to, on your own, view the record. Let us know at that time that you've done so and you're able to discuss the problem. Okay? Roman numeral 8, legal enforcement actions. Number 1, show cause hearing, Offenburg, 1865 Sturgis Highway, map 253, lot 33. Regulated activities within a regulated area without a permit. Notice of violation issued November 29, 2023. It has gone unresponsive. Still so, Tim?
It is still unresponsive. Just a note, part of the difficulty, I issued actually more than one NOV at different times. Both green cards from the certified mailings have not come back. I don't know, and those are both addresses provided through town records. I reached out to Town of Westport. Third NOV that I sent was with an address they provided from their records. That one was the most recent, has gone unresponsive and have not received any cards. I don't know. House itself is located in the Town of Westport. The property on the lot where this activities occurred is the Town of Fairfield. I don't know if they live there full time. I don't know. So we're not getting any response.
But it might not be on.
Yeah, right.
Is this the first time it's down here on this? Or it doesn't say continued, so is it?
Yes.
Let's continue this for one more month. Okay. No, that's, yeah. Number 2, show cause hearing, Black Rock Realty and Development LLC, 1876 Black Rock Turnpike, map 76, lot 172. Regulated activity in a regulated area without a permit. Notice of violation issued April 10th, 2023. Corrective action order issued September 22nd, 2023. Previous show cause hearing, late 2023, was attended. This is the one behind the granola place or whatever it is?
Correct.
Okay. Any contact with him lately?
No contact. This is just dragging on. The last time I was out there, it appeared that some of the garbage had been removed from our open space, which is also wetlands. There was garbage in the wetlands and water course. Again, our open space abuts this commercial and the granola bar. Broad Turnpike that was loaded with garbage. Even if that was partially executed, the stone to prevent this from continuing has gone unaddressed since April. So personally, I'm, with no response, I'm getting frustrated.
What would be our next step? Is this we refer this to the town attorney? That would.
My recommendation would be to refer to town attorney for, to send, a more aggressive letter on behalf of, see.
Is this the one where they initially had been like, okay, we'll extend the fence down, like they had initially been kind of responsive?
Initially,
Yeah,
yeah, and then he
Now we're
got
going-
sick, or his wife was sick, and it's just dropping the ball.
we're 10 months in and
Yeah,
just asking for a dump truck to fill the gap.
I'd like to refer to the town attorney.
Turn up the, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think we need to, refer it to the town.
Make a proposal, basically, for this, the town attorney for second.
Did we second that? Jerry seconds that. All in
Right.
favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Done.
Right, we're referring it to the town attorney for a more formal letter, initially, and then if there's still no response, and I want this in the record because this came up last time, they also have the authority to do any and all legal means to get this thing, corrected, including any court action if need be. Okay? Okay, and yes, number 3, continued Blanco, 144 Bennett Street, map 26, lot 166. Significant activities without a permit, including deposition material within regulated area, water course, and disturbance of the natural indigenous character of the land without sediment and erosion controls. Currently working with town special counsel to pursue legal enforcement actions, and I'll say that you all saw the email, but I'll have Tim briefly touch on that.
Received the memo of decision from Superior Court Judge Stevens the other day, which outlined the order moving forward, which I think is fair on our, in our favor quite significantly. But also note that I would say I forwarded the email, I think it was about 2 weeks ago. Ms. Blanco for the first time reached out in person at the department. I was not in the office at the time. She sent me a follow-up email within the hour asking what can she do. Her intention is to sell the house. So action is now happening almost 10 months in with the court order, so.
Did she sell the house with the court order?
Sure. Well, they would have to deal with it. So she can sell the house, even though the court order is in place. Court order simply says that she needs to do what we're telling her to do. So.
Before she sells it. I mean, she can't, the new buyer can't get a mortgage on that house with a court order on it, can they? Can they? Would that be a
Well,
remedy?
they would, it'll come up in their municipal search. So that'll be an issue. They can buy it, but then they would have to be responsible.
They can,
Yeah. So it's not like it's judgment lien or a lien that's recorded on the land. Court's order. But I think because, and we spoke about it briefly, I think because of this action of selling the house, it'll work itself out because it'll either be, he will fix it or she's gonna sell it to somebody, gonna get a credit, who will then have to come in front of us and hopefully we get it fixed that way. So, I mean, in the real estate world, because they're not gonna want that liability. The liability is $1,000 a day.
I saw that. No, I saw that. What I'm saying is when does the clock start?
Based on the date of the order, notice going out. There's a second sheet, you can use the date that's there. Usually the clerks mail it either that day or the next day. That's when the clock starts ticking.
$1,000 a day.
No, it's
not to exceed $1,000 a day.
Let's say 1,000.
I know. It's a lot of money. So that.
Well, how should this panel handle that? Oh, you're starting now, or should we wait till it's rectified? What we say, yes.
We have no say in it. It's the judges, that order.
It has to be satisfied by the town. Or not satisfied.
The order required a permit.
Yes, the order requires a permit. Yeah, they need to come in within the next 30 days or 15 days. I don't remember when, 30 days. So That's the first step. They come in and do a permit, that stops their penalty.
What I suggested was it's either a permit to correct and restore or a permit to continue the armoring.
Yeah.
That was the original intent. Was stream bank.
Assuming they have counsel sale and they think that somebody stops it, and then we can work with them and say, okay, get this stuff done. Like that's, for me, that's like the.
Yeah, but you know, we should this board say, okay, that's fine, we're good, we're not gonna take the money? I mean, the town spent a lot of money on attorney fees to get to this point already.
It's not up to take them. She has to violate the court's order, and that's what the issue or assessed.
But it doesn't come to us, we'll get your permit.
If she doesn't.
Even if she does apply for a permit, it doesn't do anything.
If she comes in for a permit and then doesn't do it, there's timeframes after the permit. It's within, and so if she doesn't do, here's an example. She comes in at day 40 for the permit, not day 30, day 40, that's $10,000.
Right.
We can't say no to that. We have to take it, even if we wanted to.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a court's order. Okay. So, those are timeframes that the judge set up.
No. I learned.
Any further on this one?
No, that was all I.
That was a good outcome from the whole thing, you know.
And when they said that not all the fees, what fees do they not get? You know, when they were saying the judgment?
They had, our council asked for, compensation for their fees.
Oh, their attorney fee. Oh, okay.
And, you know, normal permit fees that would, which also, just to point out, any of the work, whether it's the restoration of the water course or the continued armoring application, carries the $5,000 IWP fee plus the $3,500 in-water work fee times 2. So you're at 17 grand
Oh, okay.
at the gates. So it's gonna be steep.
Yeah. All right, we're moving on to Roman 9 staff reports from the Conservation Department. A, CWC permit applications received 2. B, notice of violations issued 1 and bonds release number 6. Anything there? No. Okay. And other, Connecticut, 1351 by the Times, annual meeting that's scheduled for March 7th, 2024 in Southbury. Anybody want to talk about that? Nope. Anything further? Where in Southbury?
I can send you the info. It's like a hotel. The only thing else I have under other was, I met with planning and zoning director yesterday and deep enforcement at 50 Carthage, which is close to what's the 95 corridor, to determine whether DEP had jurisdiction on accusations on a commercial use property. They decided that there was wrongdoing and activities. It's also inland wetlands in our jurisdiction. We didn't have any findings. We'll issue a report on that. Just thought I'd mention it. Right now, it's mapped from our map revision as title. He thinks otherwise, so maybe one was to eventually generate a memo recommending that we look at that revision in that area.
Here. So, any furthers for other?
Motion to adjourn.
Nope.